Google released the Android 12 public beta at its I/O developer conference this week, and those who don't mind dealing with potentially buggy software can already try it out. The preview of the upcoming OS will be available on the company's own Pixel phones, as well as devices from OnePlus, Nokia, TCL, Asus, Sharp, and more. Though Google teased new features like themes that automatically adopt your wallpaper's dominant color scheme, indicators and toggles for your camera and mic, as well as new permissions settings and shortcuts, few of them are actually available in this version. Most of the changes are visual at this moment, but it's still a nice look at what we can expect when Google does officially launch Android 12 later this year. This might be one of the biggest refreshes to Android's overall look in years. Android 11 looked pretty similar to Android 10 and didn't feel like a very exciting upgrade. But with the promise of new themes and widgets, Android 12 could be a nice change for your eyes. For now, the beta doesn't appear to have the dynamic palettes under Google's new Material You design that can change your color scheme based on your wallpaper. I switched between largely blue and mostly red, orange, or pink photos for my home and lock screen backgrounds, and the text remained the same shade of bluish gray in each case. What does look different is the new lock screen, which has updated font styles and neater notifications. When you have a string of alerts, the clock is relegated to the top left of the page. After you dismiss them all, the clock expands and moves to the center, making it easier to see. It's a small but nice touch. I have yet to see any of the changes that Material You design is meant to bring, like font sizes or widget sizes adapting to your preference. The Widgets menu is better organized than before, but there appear to be few actually new widget options. The notifications shade is noticeably different though. The biggest contrast here is the quick settings area, which now has 4 rounded rectangles for settings like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Do Not Disturb, and the flashlight. Even though this does reduce the number of settings that are immediately available, I'm surprised I actually prefer this to the older setup, which was a row of 6 circles. Of course, after I spend more time with this software, I might find myself wishing for more shortcuts that are quickly just right there. There's also less clutter in the notifications shade, which is something that bothered me in Android 11. Thanks to a color scheme that makes the distinction between each notification card and the panel behind it less noticeable, everything just seems cleaner. There's also no longer the word notifications in between the quick settings box and your list of notifications below it anymore. Setting sliders for things like volume and display brightness are also thicker than before, which makes it easier to aim for them. They're aesthetically congruous with the rest of the new UI's rounder and slightly chunkier elements, but they also take up more space. Not everyone's going to like this, but I guess it's a balance between ease of use and a nicer look. Most of the other visible differences are so minor, you might even miss them if you weren't specifically looking out for them. When you tap on some of the quick settings, for instance, the box will sparkle, sort of, in addition to flashing to a different color to indicate the change in state. Also, when you're scrolling through a long list or article and you hit the end or the beginning, the window stretches instead of glowing like it did before to signify that you've hit a boundary. I didn't think I'd like this animation when I first heard about it, but I actually don't mind it. Plus, to paraphrase Google's engineer and developer relations executive from the What's New in Android session at I/O, this lets you hit stretch goals when clearing your inbox. Some other small changes, in addition to actual system improvements, are meant to make Android 12 feel faster. Google said it recrafted the entire underlying system to make your experience more fluid and efficient, promising better responsiveness and power efficiency overall through under-the-hood improvements. Well, that's not something I can verify from the beta right now. There are other things that I can already see that might contribute to an overall swiftness. The Android 12 beta certainly feels more fluid, and this is likely because Google has added more animations throughout the interface, so something actually happens when you tap on the screen. This isn't an actual CPU or systems improvement, it's just a visual cue that something is happening so you don't think your phone is lagging. One of these examples is the new splash page for every app when they're launched. Google's making these enabled by default for every app in Android 12. And if the app doesn't have one yet, then Google creates a generic one for them by placing the app icon in the center of a blank page. While some apps do have their own splash screens, some don't, which causes kind of an incongruous experience. Some apps will even show the generic Android splash screen before transitioning to their own, which actually causes a bit more delay. It's also somewhat counterintuitive to think that adding a splash animation at startup will make a system feel faster, but it's actually better to see something, anything, happen when you tap on an app rather than have to wait 1 or 2 seconds while things load in the background. It's small things like that throughout Android 12 that are likely to make for a more coherent experience, at least once developers bring their apps up to speed. As we noted in our coverage of the Android 12 developer preview, changes are also coming to the way apps can send notifications and what Google calls toasts, which are the little dialog boxes that pop up at the bottom to tell you when a download is complete, for example. These, combined with the material you design, should make Android 12 look and feel like a refreshing and more responsive update. A lot of stuff I was looking forward to checking out don't appear to be live yet. Long pressing the power button is supposed to bring up the assistant, but I'm still having trouble finding the setting that will enable that on this beta. I've also yet to see the option in permission settings that lets you limit the range and precision of your location that apps can access. According to Google, the approximate locations feature is available, but only for specific apps that are targeting it, which means I'll have to hunt for them for a little bit more, and I'll report back when I encounter one. Google also told Engadget that the privacy dashboard and the mic and camera toggles and indicators are not available on this beta. Many upcoming features are also dependent on developers, who will have to code them into their apps before we can fully appreciate them. Things like audio-coupled haptic feedback, which would allow for more immersive gaming by generating vibration patterns based on the sound of rain or gunfire, for example. There's also plenty more to expect from the final version of Android that I'm sure Google is saving to reveal at a later time. Of course, since this is a beta release, the software is not guaranteed to be stable. I've already noticed a few issues like conversations bubbles not working, although they've never really worked very well before. The Twitter app, it's fine when you're just reading your feed, but freaks out if you try to post something with a picture. These are pretty much par for the course when testing out preview software, but worth noting if you're considering installing the beta for yourself. Given the lack of actual new features at the moment though, I'd advise you to wait for the second or third version of the beta before you try this out. But for now, the Android 12 beta preview has me excited for Google's next mobile OS. For in-depth reviews on Android, iOS, smartphones, laptops, wearables, and all kinds of stuff in the world of consumer technology, make sure you subscribe to Engadget. And as always, thank you for watching.